Okay, so in this video, we're going to go over post-processing. So the first thing that we want to do is come over here to Edit, Project Settings, and under Player, we're going to go to Other Settings, and we're going to change this to Linear. By default, it's on Gamma. We want Linear, so go ahead and change that. Now we can get going. So in this scene here, I've deleted my original camera, and I'm just going to go ahead and right-click and create a new camera down here, just so we have a nice fresh camera in here. And I'm going to go ahead and go to Game Object and Align with View. So now I have the same view in my camera as I do in my scene. So the next thing that we're going to go do is, if you haven't already, you want to go to Window, go to your Package Manager, and you just want to make sure you click on your, wait till it loads up. Click here and just make sure you're on Unity Registry, so it shows you everything, and then just scroll on down. It's alphabetical to post-processing. Open that up. Mine's already installed. Click on that and hit install and make sure that gets installed. So now we're kind of ready to go. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is click on our camera. And right up here where it says layer, we want to go ahead and click here, and this won't be here post-processing. So we have to add a new layer. And you can go ahead and, I put it on layer 8. I just put post-processing. Once you do that, you can hit enter and then click back on your camera, go back to the layer, and go ahead and select post-processing. Okay, so that sets us up so that we can use post-processing. So once we have that post-processing in there, we can go ahead and start adding some stuff here. We've got to set up a little bit of this as well. So let's see, rendering path, we're going to go ahead and change that to deferred. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. Now for this little walkthrough here, there is a fly camera, which you all should have script. I'm just going to go ahead and drag that right into my component so I have the fly camera. That's going to allow me to move around inside of my game when I want to check things out. All right, so now that that fly camera is in there, let's go ahead and add a layer. So first thing we're going to do is add component, a layer of post-processing. So we'll come in here, and I just typed in post-processing, so just so you can see me do it again. You really only have to POS, post-processing layer. Go ahead and toss that in there. We're going to open post-process layer up. Now, the first thing, our layer here, it says nothing. We're going to go ahead and change that to post-processing. That's the one that we added for our camera, so now they'll all be hooked up together. Anti-aliasing, so something to look at. Let me see if I can get the camera to look at. So I guess if you look right around here, you can see a little bit of this jaggy area. So if we go, that's anti-aliasing or stair-stepping. So everything is made up of pixels, and when something's at an angle, those pixels start to stair-step, meaning like look like stairs, and that's going to give you those hard, those little crispy edges there. So if I go to, I'm going to just go to FXAA, which is our fast approximate anti-aliasing. If I click on that, you can see it gets a little bit cleaner. I can go ahead and click on the next one, see how that looks. That's even crisper, right? That looks really good. We'll just keep it on that for now. But it doesn't really matter. Whichever one you want to kind of play around with, you can, right? So, okay, so that looks a little bit cleaner. We're pretty happy with that. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a post-process volume. So I'm going to right-click in here, 3D objects, and we're going to go to post-process volume. Now I'm going to double-click here. Whoops, I did not mean to do that. You can see it there though. There's our post-processing volume. But did it again. I'm going to right-click on there and hit rename, and I'm going to call this global, because what I want to happen here is anything that's in this volume will happen globally across everything. And I'll get to why it's called global and why we're going to have one that's going to be more specific to a volume afterwards. So, okay, now that we have this and we're looking here, you guessed it, we have to add a new, what we're going to do is right up here, sorry, first thing we want to do is layer, post-processing, and then we're going to come down to profile, and we're going to hit new. That's going to give us a new volume, right? New post-process volume when we hit new there, so that's good. When that happens, we can go into add effect, Unity, and we can check out any of these things that we want. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add ambient occlusion there, see what that looks like, right? So you didn't see anything change inside of your scene because this is your scene, and this only happens on top of your camera. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my game, and let's look at ambient occlusion. Let's turn it off. We're not really seeing much of a difference. Well, we have to go in, and I'm going to turn everything on. And I'm going to go to my intensity, and you'll see that start to change in there, right? Am I in my game? Yep. So let's see what happens if I turn it off and turn it on. I'm not really seeing much of a difference. Let's go ahead and hit play and see what happens here. So now we can move around with our camera and take a look here and see how things look. So, all right. I didn't see much of a change there, right? And that's okay. So let's exit the game. And one thing that's important right now is always click off of the game. If you ever see blue up here, either on pause or on play, that means you're inside of the game. Anything that you're changing here will probably not carry over. So definitely turn the game off. All right, I'm going to add a couple other effects to Unity. Let's see if we can get something to happen with bloom. So I'll go ahead and turn bloom on. We'll turn everything on. Let's turn the intensity up and see what happens there. So we can already see that nothing's really happening. So I got to check out where I kind of made a little bit of a mistake. So we have our post-processing on up here. Let's check this out. Yep. Well, I forgot to put in post-processing volume, hit global. So now everything is all crazy, right? You always have to hit that global button. So let me turn this down a little bit. So you can see the ambient occlusion working now. My intensity on my bloom, you can see that going up and down as I change it, right? So I can turn that up, play around with my global illumination a little bit as well, right? So thickness modifier, can make that thicker or less. You can change the color of it, ambient only. Really can play around with all these things. Let's see, multi-scene volume, or we can do scalable. And that's going to be if we go into it or come out of it. So we'll just make sure to, we'll keep that on default for now, right? So you just have to make sure to hit is global. That's why we called it global, so it'll happen all over the place. So yeah, and again, you can just keep adding things all you want to, right? So what is that is global? If I don't click that, you notice that nothing happened, right? So that the reason that didn't happen is because of kind of the next process that we're going to do here. So now what we're going to do is come over here and we're going to add a new post-process volume. So I'm going to keep this and I'm going to just right click and rename this, and I'm going to rename it to _1. And the reason I'm doing this is because I don't want it to be global. Previously we did, and I forgot to click that, but once we do click that, it happens everywhere. For this one, I want it to actually, let me go into my scene here. I want it to actually stay inside of this little box volume. So I'm actually going to scale it up a little bit. Move it up a little bit here. So what happens, what'll end up happening, what I'm intending to do is, as my camera moves and goes into the volume of that box, I'm going to have this post-process turn on. And let's just kind of see what happens here when I do that. So I'm going to go to my layer, change my default to post-processing. I'm going to add a new post-process. I'm going to add two different effects here. I'm going to go ahead and add color grading, turn everything on, turn my saturation all the way down. So it should turn black and white. Then we're going to go into our other one, and we're going to do vignette. Turn them all on, and I'm going to take my intensity and bring that up right about here. There we go. That's pretty good. So now that this is all set up, I do not have is global turned on, so it's only going to affect that little volume there. Let's go ahead into our game and hit play. Now that I'm here, you can see everything's doing its thing, and then I'm going to slowly go closer. And look at that. It turned on. You can see it snap on, right? Cool. So what I'm going to do now, this is one little thing I want to show, is if I go back into my scene, you can see your volume here. And we're see what it says blend distance. I'm going to take that and bring that up. And you can see that another box grew over that. So what that's going to do is fade in the effect, right? So it's not going to snap on like it did previously. So let's go ahead back into our game. And now when I start going forward, it slowly turns on. See how it kind of fades in? Which is kind of nice. And I can control how much that fades in and what that effect actually is, right? But it's kind of a nice thing to do. You can change things around. And even though I'm just using, let me stop this here. Even though I'm only using a couple of different effects in here, really you can change anything you want. This is just examples of a few of them. You can use whatever it is you want. So go ahead and feel free to experiment with that and put it on top of your camera. This is like one of the last things you do to really make everything look awesome.